Welcome back, it's Zion from Uke On Demand, and this week we're teaching Walking After Midnight by Patsy, Cline. This arrangement was requested by one of our members at Uke On Demand, and it's compatible with both high G and low G ukuleles. And to begin, we're going to start out in a C5. Now this won't look like your typical C5 down here with your finger on the 3rd fret of E. Instead, it's going to have that finger, but it will also have the pinky on the 7th fret of A. But before we play that section, I'm going to play through it one more time, just so you can hear how it goes. And to play that part, we're going to start out in this position, but we're not going to put our pinky on it yet. Instead, it's just going to be hovering above where we need it to be, because first, we're going to pick the 3rd fret of E by itself. Then the open A, which is why we don't put that pinky on just yet. And after you pick that open A string, you're going to take that index finger and flatten it. So now it's covering both the 3rd fret of E and the 3rd fret of A. You're going to pick that once as well. And then once you play that, now we can add the pinky to the 7th fret of the A string. We get to strum all the strings. Once you do that, you have two options. You can take the pinky off and pick the 3rd fret of A by itself, which is why we leave this finger there. Or, after you strum, you can do a pull-off, like that, with your pinky. If you're not quite sure what a pull-off is, we do have a tutorial on them in our techniques library at ukeondemand.com. But either way, whichever way you do it, once you do that section, you're going to leave that index finger barring those two strings, and you're going to add your ring finger, pick the 5th fret of E, and then your index finger is still where it needs to be, so you can simply pick the A string. And now we're going to move into a bar chord. Now, if bar chords are a little bit of a struggle for you, don't worry, because I'm going to show you a couple ways you can simplify it down. But as it's written on the tabs, you're going to move up into a barred F7. So not your F7 down here, but up here. It's going to be barring the 5th fret, all the strings, and your middle finger will be on the 6th fret of the A. Now, if this bar chords in general can be a bit tricky to get in and out of quickly enough to keep in time with the song. And so if you do struggle with those, we do have a course on bar chords at ukeondemand.com. And one way to simplify this chord that I go over in that series is start by eliminating strings. So for example, we could bring it all the way down to just the E string and A string. And again, you're picking the 5th fret of E and 6th fret of A. And as long as we just pick those two strings, it's going to be a lot easier on our fingers to get from this position and actually play the notes than it is to get into a full bar chord. Now, downside is it won't sound as full, but in the context of the song, and when you're playing all the notes, it will still sound right, and more importantly, it'll still sound good. It won't be quite as full as it could have been, but it will still sound correct and very nice. So, if bar chords are a bit of a struggle with you, you can simplify it down to, say for just this one example, you could go all the way down to the E string and just pick 5th fret of E, 6th fret A. for that first that mid of the word midnight that we're under. Whichever way you play it, full or simplified, whichever section way you do it, you're going to add your pinky to the 5th or to the 8th fret of the E afterwards. And then after you do that, we've got a bit of a gap in the next verse. When we play this verse again, we're going to fill those gaps in with strums, but for this first section, it's just simple and as written. After we do that, we're going to slide that bar down to the 3rd fret, from the 5th fret to the 3rd fret. So we're still covering the E string and A string, and we're going to do a little hammer on. We're going to do the 3rd fret of E to 5th fret E. If you don't know what a hammer on is, we also have a tutorial on them at ukondemand.com. Like that. Or if you find it simpler to just pick both individually, that's fine. You'll just have to pick quickly. And then your index finger is already covering the 3rd fret of A, which is the next note. And then go ahead and leave your index finger there, but take your ring finger off. Add the pinky to the 7th fret of A. And we're going to strum the whole chord. We're back to that first chord we played at the beginning of the bar. So go ahead and play that once. And then, again, we have that pull off. Or you can pick it individually if that's what you prefer. And then we've got this final measure here on the screen. It's got a lot more notes than everything else. And we're going to start, this index finger stays on the whole time. But we're going to start by picking the 5th fret of the A with the ring finger. Then 3rd fret A. Then add the pinky back to the 7th fret of A, and again, we're strumming the same chord again. 5th fret A. 3rd fret A. Now we finally get to move this index finger, and we don't even move it completely off the fretboard. Instead, we're just going to arc it up. So it still is on the 3rd fret of E, but it reveals the open A string, because the next note we need is that A. But the reason why we leave it on the fretboard is because after that A, we need to pick the 3rd fret of E. And we do that twice. And you might be wondering, why not just pick the open G string? And that's because that would only work if you're playing a high G ukulele. If you're in a low G ukulele, of course that G string is an octave lower, and that would just throw the song off. And so the 3rd fret of E is a universal way to get that G4 note you're looking for. All right. After you pick that 3rd fret of E twice, you're going to pick the open A again, and then simply lay the index finger back down so it's covering the 3rd fret of A again. And then, moving as a sneak peek into the 2nd bar, we're going to go back into this chord position that we've done the entire song pretty much. Strum it one more time and pull off one more time. And we'll pause there. Let's go back to the 1st bar and play this whole section together very slowly so you can get used to the rhythm. Starting with that 3rd fret of E, nice and slow. And that's how to play the first part of Walking After Midnight. To get the rest of the tutorial and all the tabs, head over to ukondemand.com. And make sure to subscribe below so you don't miss our upcoming fingerstyle songs. We'll see you next time. Ooh, good timing.